Hey everyone, and welcome back to the VSO Gun Channel. It's great to have you here as always. Thank you for tuning in. And today I'm going to piss some of you off. Whenever somebody says, hey man, you're doing a great job, keep up the great work, love the videos, etc., I always respond, oh, just wait. Eventually, I will piss you off. Well, today is one of those days, and the question is, should illegal immigrants have access to firearms? And you can call them undocumented immigrants or whatever term it is that you want to use. People who did not legally immigrate to the United States. Should they have access to firearms? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Quick service announcement for all of y'all. We have now 2 discount codes prepped up for you guys over at Mission First Tactical. One is for the all-day everything stuff, everything from their backpacks to their drinkware to the holsters to even the new translucent magazines that they just came out with. Really like the purple ones, by the way. And then a second code that is for everything that is getting ready to go away, about to be discontinued, the closeouts, if you will. Older backpack designs to their range bags to their rifle cases, and even some of the larger drinkware items that didn't quite stick. That is going to be a rolling list that's going to change with time, but it's going to be like 50 or 60% off in many cases. So you can find all that information over at the affiliates page, and special thanks to Mission First Tactical for making today's video possible. To lead off today, we're going to read a definition. The definition of principle. A fundamental truth or proposition that serves as a foundation for a system of belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. And then the second definition is a general scientific theorem or law that has numerous special applications across a wide field. Well, I have many principles. Some of them are religious, but many of them are derived from the Constitution of the United States. So let's reference the Constitution of the United States really quick. I know that some of you may not be familiar with this, but this is the Bill of Rights. And if you look right here, the second one on the list says, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, well, yeah, that seems pretty cut and dry when it comes to citizens, because the Charter of Rights, known as the Bill of Rights, which the whole concept of a Charter of Rights was designed around the definition of rights, or you could also put it in terms of prevention of infringement of rights for certain groups of people throughout history, right? So the Bill of Rights was specifically done, it was a big argument for years, on whether they were going to include a Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution, because one side said, well, if we include a Bill of Rights, then that's all the rights that we will ever have, because they'll say, well, we enumerated them, so therefore everything else is somebody else's right, i.e. the government's right. And then the other side said, no, if you don't write them down, then they'll take everything from you. So they enumerated the most important of those rights. And this is pretty much the basis of everything that we talk about on this channel. All right, okay. Well, that's for citizens of the United States, or if you use the consistent terminology, we the people of the United States, people who have citizenship status in the United States, that applies to them. But notice that it doesn't mention anywhere any kind of rights for anybody else, because it is the Bill of Rights for the people of the United States. So what about people who don't have citizenship in the United States? Well, if you go by the Constitution, then they would have no rights whatsoever, because that document's not about them. So is it true that people in the United States illegally have no rights whatsoever and can be treated like animals? Well, I don't think that that's right either. So we would have to consult an additional document to gain some insight into what the founders were thinking about human rights in general. So let's take a look at the Declaration of Independence, because this document not only predates the composition of the Constitution, but predates the war that made it possible, and is a more general statement about human rights unbounded. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitles them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. And then it goes on, and it also goes on to enumerate the perpetrations of the Crown and why the United States is splitting from the British Empire. However, the important part here for today's discussion is the whole bit about, and I will repeat, all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Another definition for you: unable to be taken away from or given away by the possessor. As in, you have these inherently. They cannot be taken from you by anyone for any reason, and you cannot dispossess yourself of those voluntarily or involuntarily. Well, Kurt, actually, it's not a legal document. In what world do you live in that a declaration of war isn't a legal document? I would say that when it comes to framing the mindset of the people who were founding the country, who had conducted the first ever experiment of its kind that has endured to the length of time that it has and has produced the most prosperous nation on the face of the planet. Yeah, I think it's pretty important to gaze into the perspective of those people at that time, particularly considering that many of them did not survive that war. In order for a principle to be a principle, as in a guiding force in your life, a code that you live by, so to speak, you must uniformly apply the logic of that principle to situations. You don't get to just pick and choose because something might sound a little bit different to you. It is either a principle or it is not. And if these are not principles, then we're not really doing anything here. To uniformly apply the logic of the principles that I have laid out for you here today, we have a Bill of Rights for the citizens of the United States. And the basis of foundation for that Bill of Rights is that men are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In order to enjoy those fundamental rights, you have a right to self-defense. Also, those rights are inalienable. They cannot be separated from you. They cannot be relinquished by you. They are inherent to your being, and all men are created equal, whether or not they are citizens or not. I don't think that God really cares about your borders. So to uniformly apply the logic of the foundation of this country, yes, you have to only conclude that illegal immigrants have a right to self-defense, and that means that they have a right to keep and bear arms. You may not like it. You might come up with really good excuses why that may not be. But the truth of the matter is, if you uniformly apply the logic of the principles that we consistently talk about here, that you can only come to that one conclusion. You might say, well, Kurt, they can't pass a background check, so how on earth? There is nothing in the Constitution of the United States or in the text, history, and tradition of the United States that even closely approximates the concept of providing civil rights or human rights or whatever term it is that you want to use to people who can pass an arbitrary set of standards set forth by some government somewhere. Everything that I just read to you makes it clear that that is antithetical to everything that we stand for in America. Background checks for constitutional rights, whether they're the right to free speech, whether they're the right to vote, whether they're the right to keep, you from having soldiers quartered within the confines of your house, or whether they're the right of you to keep a weapon for your own personal preservation, are absolutely unconstitutional. It just has not been challenged thoroughly enough at this point. And when it finally does make it to the Supreme Court and is challenged, it will be abolished. Anyway, the only logical conclusion that you can come to, if you uniformly apply the logic, is that the right to self-defense is for every human, not just citizens of the United States. And any other interpretation is picking and choosing. And when you pick and choose, those are not principles. Those are privileges. And privileges can be taken away.